Very different perspective on what should be done to help immigrants now residing in spare rooms, hotels, shelters, and the streets. New York City Mayor Eric Adams announcing the city is suing more than 30 surrounding counties for preventing migrants from staying in private hotels within their jurisdictions. Let's bring in Democratic strategist Basil Smikle and political consultant Shermichael Singleton. Thank you both for being with us. I'm going to start with you, Shermichael. Do you think that these counties should be forced to receive immigrants and to keep them in hotel rooms, even though taxpayers there may not necessarily agree?
Yeah, no, I don't think so, because the reality is most of those counties should be able to have legal autonomy. I think the concern here isn't necessarily about the morality of this, but more so about the legal ethics and whether or not a larger county municipality such as New York City, with an abundance of resources compared to the 30 surrounding counties, which are much smaller. I did take a time to look at some of their population sizes, and I don't disagree with the leaders of those counties saying, wait a minute here, what are going to be the financial strains and burdens on our already limited resources outside of the city of New York, paying for those private hotel stays? What about food? What about security? I mean, there are a plethora of other things that have to be considered here beyond just shelter, that I think those leaders are right to say we do not want this burden on folks that we can't already take care of our own citizens. So I'm really concerned about this. And I do wonder legally how far this would go, because this potentially could go to the Supreme Court and could have broad implications for smaller counties across the country.
Basil, I know that the surrounding counties, many of which are not sanctuary cities, that's their argument. They're saying, listen, we didn't sign up for this. What legal standing do they have to say that that's the reason why they should not be forced to accept these immigrants who came here illegally, who Mayor Adams defends should be taken care of?
Well, I think to Shermichael's point, they seem to have the legal right to be able to push back. I've been to those counties. I've been to all 62 counties in the state of New York, and you know, I understand. A lot of them have had loss of businesses, loss of population, are struggling financially, and I think that really highlights the problem here, that the governor could step in and is being asked to step in a much more significant way to be able to offset any of the costs that these counties and smaller cities would bear by taking in some of these migrants. That's what the mayor of the city of New York has been calling for, because it is creating substantial budgetary fiscal problems for the city, not just now, but projected in the next few budgets to come. So that's why you're seeing this sort of plea for help from the New York City mayor that he doesn't seem to be getting from the governor and, quite frankly, from his president. And that's the frustration here.
Shermichael, I mean, this is obviously one of the biggest topics to address, you know, to face America. I mean, we have thousands and thousands, millions of people coming into the country at a rate never before seen. The mayor clearly wants to show compassion. So does New York's governor, though some would argue there's a lot of politics there. Do you think that this will eventually come to a head where the federal government will finally get involved, because they've pretty much stayed mum on the whole thing?
So the mayor actually did ask from the Federal Emergency Management Agency for, I believe, $140 million. I may be off a little bit for the audience's sake, so don't hold that against me. He was only given a fraction of that. So the federal government has attempted to aid and assist, but they did not give nearly what the mayor requested. I mean, the city is spending $8 million a day. They're expected to spend a total of 4.6 billion with a B by the end of July. And so when you unpack this, you think about the limitations financially. I understand the mayor's request, to Basil's point, for the state to chime in on this, but budgets aren't unlimited. And so the question from my perspective as a strategist, but also someone who's worked a lot in policy, is, well, where will the state pull those dollars from in order to cover these migrants? Are those dollars going to come from programs that are needed for native New Yorkers? I mean, these are all complicated things that we have to consider. I believe in passion. I believe in empathy, but not at the expense of people who are already struggling.
Yeah, and there are a lot of homeless people. There are a lot of veterans who've been brought into the conversation, as New York City is one of the biggest housing crises, locations in the world, I mean, in the country.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.